Competencies. What are they and why develop them? Part 1, Learning and Enabling Learning, Embracing and Implementing the Curricula. Clip 3, August 2020, Direction de la Formation Générale des Jeunes. Why develop competencies? Since schools are established according to a set of socio-institutional expectations that call for the preparation of citizens and workers capable of greater adaptability, a competency-based approach was favoured during the reform. This approach makes it possible to offer an education that instills in young people a culture of lifelong learning while responding to the new demands of an ever-changing labour market. Let's think about this for a moment as we look back at the 20th century. During this time, the labour market was generally a predictable market that required a skilled workforce capable of performing a given task according to established rules. Workers possessed specific skills for the jobs they held and generally had the same job for most of their life. In today's world, with a constantly changing labour market, needs have changed. Indeed, most of today's workers will have several jobs over the course of their lifetime, more than 60% of which do not even exist yet. These workers will be required to take on an increasing number of responsibilities and perform progressively more complex tasks. They'll be able to go beyond performance and to find innovative ways to achieve their goals and to deal with new situations they encounter. The goal is to develop a flexible, versatile, and self-reliant workforce. In other words, a competent workforce. To be adequately prepared to meet the challenges of the 21st century, today's students must therefore develop a variety of disciplinary and cross-curricular competencies that they'll be able to reinvest in the various situations that they'll encounter in the labour market and in their daily lives. A competency-based curriculum focuses learning on the fundamental ideas, skills, and concepts underlying each of the disciplines within the 5 subject areas. But what is a competency? Competencies are complex intellectual skills that support the formation of thinking and the development of autonomy in students. In the QEP, competency is defined as the ability to act effectively or respond appropriately in situations of a certain complexity. The term act effectively is used because it implies that students must be actively involved in building knowledge and skills. Like the learning process, competencies cannot be taught or transmitted, but are rather developed by the student. As for the resources mobilized by the competent student, they combine internal resources, which may result from the student's academic or personal experience, such as knowledge, know-how, strategies, attitudes, skills, and interests, and external resources, such as a variety of information sources, various technological tools, peers, and teachers. Effective engagement and use refers to the process of selecting the resources needed to complete a given task and their intentional use by the student. Competency is inferred from the actions and performance of the student, the result obtained, or the product delivered. In other words, the teacher infers the level of competency development by analysing different observable behaviours and the result of the student's performance. The importance of selecting and combining resources should not be overlooked, however, because it is through these processes that competency develops, and it is these processes that can be reinvested in other situations. Here's an example to better illustrate the notion of competency and what links the development of skills to the acquisition of knowledge. Let's think about the work of a teacher. What resources are mobilized by teachers when they teach students? First of all, each teacher comes with their own set of attitudes, skills, and interests that they have acquired through personal and professional experience. They also possess a wealth of knowledge that they have acquired during their initial training and through years of experience, among other things. When they work, teachers mobilize relative knowledge of the subjects they teach and the themes they deal with, the prescribed curricula, effective teaching practices, and classroom management techniques. Teachers must also make use of their expertise, including the ability to plan their teaching according to the curriculum taught and the needs of their students, create or use authentic, meaningful, and contextualized learning situations, guide students in their learning, adjust their teaching practices according to the needs of their students, and manage the classroom. External resources also contribute to the development of teaching skills. Collaboration with other staff members, feedback from students, peers, or superiors, professional development, reading pedagogical articles, or the use of technological tools are good examples. Would a teacher be able to teach effectively if they had only theoretical knowledge of the subject matter being taught? Obviously, the answer is no. Would they be able to teach effectively in the classroom if they had simply practiced using their expertise with university colleagues as an audience? Again, the answer is no. To be competent, one must be able to use one's knowledge effectively in action and apply one's know-how in an authentic context. Therefore, it is during their initial practicums, courses, and teaching career that teachers acquire new knowledge and know-how, which they gradually combine with each other. It's at the heart of their work that they develop and refine their teaching competency. The concept of competency applies equally to all the competencies developed in the disciplinary programs of the Quebec Students' Educational Pathway. Many school tasks require the student to make a conscious effort that goes beyond an automatic response. Just think of the following tasks: writing and understanding texts, solving problems, mastering the execution of movements, synthesizing information, and the list goes on. Students' knowledge and know-how cannot be part of a list that one would check off to make sure that nothing has been forgotten. It's only by mobilizing and making effective use of a range of resources in a conscious way and in an authentic and meaningful context that students can develop their competencies to the fullest potential. Competencies are not taught in the traditional sense. They're developed by the student. They are best developed when students are supported, accompanied, and given regular opportunities to practice them. Competencies have 4 distinct characteristics. They are built in context, they are global and integrative, they involve a reflective process, and are evolutionary in nature. We've already established that by definition, competencies are developed through action, which cannot be considered independently of the context in which they are exercised. Thus, a student may be competent writing an argumentative text, but have difficulty writing an explanatory text. In other words, the student builds their competency according to the situations to which they're exposed. To optimize the development of competencies and promote the transfer of learning, it's therefore important to expose students to a variety of complex, meaningful, contextualized situations and to help them forge links between them. Competencies are said to be both global and integrative. Thus, the contents of each discipline cannot be taught in isolation. They must be integrated into the learning processes that allow for understanding and consolidation. When taught, competencies can be broken down to allow for the integration of knowledge and the development of know-how. But when assessed, they must be considered as a whole and not broken down according to their components or the knowledge and know-how that are associated with them. Competencies imply a reflexive approach, that is, they're developed both in action and as a result of reflection and self-evaluation. On the one hand, they imply the mobilization of a set of internal and external resources and their appropriate use at the right time. On the other hand, competencies are built when the student reflects on their action and uses the findings of their reflection to modify their way of approaching a future situation. Finally, skills are evolutionary. Their use must be rooted in real life so that the student can reinvest them in future learning and in their daily life. They must therefore be adaptable to a changing environment. In this way, the competent student will be able to adjust to the various changes that will pave their way and be willing to learn new things. After all, there is usually more than one path to any given destination. For questions related to this clip, please email dfgj@education.gov.qc.ca.